Welcome to the ReWatcher. I'm your cult leader Tompot, and I just watched for the first time, to be clear. I know it's called ReWatcher. I've never seen these before. I didn't even see these when it would have been probably, worth doing so, when I was a lovelorn teenage boy and every girl was so into Twilight, and maybe I could have even used that as a way to talk to people. But no, I didn't see it then. Instead I decided to shit on it, having never seen it. Let's not dwell on the regrets of teenage Tom, who never saw these films, and instead let's dwell on the nearly 30-year-old Tom, who has seen these films, because he has plenty of regrets for doing so as well. Now I can actually shit on it with good reason. Oh man, yeah, we're doing the whole Twilight film series for Halloween, so please because that's the only reason this could be worth doing it. And also subscribe if you want to see me progressively lose my mind. So every week I presume I'm going to get worse. I don't think I can put into words or explain how big a deal Twilight was for like that half a decade between 2008 and I think the last one was 2012. I don't want to say it was like the MCU before the MCU, because that was literally the first phase of the MCU when it came out, but it was massive. Like, it broke all sorts of records. Everyone was talking about it. Really got into the public consciousness. It was everywhere, man. It turned like even the smallest cast member into massive celebrities, if only for a little while. I don't think I've seen a fandom like that in film that was that rampant and rabid again. Genuinely. And I know there's massive fan bases for all sorts of series now. Especially like Marvel is the one that comes to mind, but like the fans for Twilight were crazy into this stuff. It inspired a lot of imitators, and every Hollywood executive started raiding the YA bin at their nearest bookstore to see what they could do and what they could work with and what film series they could make. And I don't think any film series did it as good as Twilight. Maybe The Hunger Games, but again, that's very loosely in the same ballpark just because they're YA, I guess. And with all that said, because it was in the public consciousness, I guess we should go into what I knew about Twilight before seeing the movie. I know the lead character was called Bella Swan, which, man, that name is on the nose. Bella, beautiful, Swan, oh, innocent, oh, a beautiful innocent girl. Is she going to be corrupted by vampires and werewolves? Oh, man. That's Stephanie Meyer for you. Coming up with a character name that wouldn't be out of place in like a James Bond movie. Bella Swan, wow. I know that there's vampires and werewolves. I know that everyone's shirtless a lot, I think. Certainly the werewolves are. That's why people love the werewolves, I guess. There's Team Edward and Team Jacob. Edward's the vampire. Jacob is the werewolf. I think I know something about how these end, kind of, maybe. But I think it's kind of really fucked up. And I kind of want to see it unfold in the film in real time. The only other thing I know is, they have sparkly skin. Yes, that was a real talking point. That they don't get burnt in the sun. They just glitter gorgeously. Oh, damn it. But yeah, these were everywhere. So that's kind of what I picked up through general cultural osmosis, I guess. We will get more into the vampires in a sec, because they're interesting, to say the least. Let's talk about the film itself first, okay? So this was directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who I believe her big claim to fame was she made the film 13 with Evan Rachel Wood, which was a really strange choice. I don't even know if she directed a film between that and Twilight, but it was a really strange choice to get her, because that's like a pretty dark, edgy film about teenagers, so like maybe that was what they were thinking, I don't know. It was written by Melissa Rosenberg, who, I think what I know her from was that I think she was the showrunner for Jessica Jones, and so yeah, some relatively talented people involved. The budget of this, just to give you an idea of how big a success this was, and to be clear, every film after this would make way more money than this one. Nearly double, I think, in most cases. On a budget of $37 million, it made over 10 times that. In its initial run, it made $393 million. So, insane how big a success this was. And that was regardless of reviews that weren't really positive. I think it actually might have been the most positive of the whole series, to be honest. But I don't know. We'll talk about the cast as well. Actually, no, do you know what I want to say first? The Twilight logo. I don't get it. Yeah, I mean, it's like a really generic font, but whatever. I don't get, like, at least, I think in some versions it's not like this. But a lot of time I've seen it, it just has all these weird extra lines carrying around behind it and stuff. Like it looks like somebody did the Twilight logo as like a proof of concept on like a maths copy, where it's all those boxes or like like graph paper, and then someone was like, "Oh, that's the logo. Huh? You wanted all these extra lines? No. Oh well, they're there now." It's just really weird looking. But yeah, the cast. Let's get into the cast. So of course we have Robert Pattinson playing Edward Cullen. I would say a lot of the cast of this, I've seen them in better things. They've given better performances. So this is kind of them at their early days. Robert Pattinson, I don't think he enjoyed Twilight. I'm pretty sure I can dig up a lot of clips of him just shitting on Twilight, and probably will, because I'm sure I'll probably agree with him by the end of this. But he's basically spent the last last decade, sorry, on like almost like a publicity tour to say, "Hey, I can be an actor. I'm not just a Twilight guy," and done a great job. And now he's Batman, so it all ends well, doesn't it? Kristen Stewart is Bella Swan. She got a lot of shit for her performances in this movie because I think it was the character. I think it was the way she was written. I don't think it's her. She can act as well, of course. She has been in much better things and given much better performances as well. But even before this, she had given good roles. She was in Into the Wild, where she got a lot of acclaim for that. We have other people. Again, I'm just going to name some people who were kind of a big deal at the time. I don't know what they've done since, really. Probably the most notable one. He has got a very small part in this. Taylor Lautner. That's a name you haven't heard in a long time. He's Jacob. The vampire guy. No, the wolf guy. He's always shirtless. Except in this one. And he's got really weird long hair in this. He looks like, every gothy teenager that decided they want to be in a metal band, so they bought an electric guitar. Thankfully, he gets a haircut in the next one, from what I've seen. Yeah, he totally fell off the face of the earth after this. I'm pretty sure, genuinely, he fell off the face of the earth. That's why we haven't heard from him. There's also other people we can throw in that camp. Like Ashley Greene, I'm sure she's still working. She was a big name at the time. Kellen Lutz, I think, wasn't he in that terrible Hercules movie? I mean, well, which one? I mean, but, one of the worst ones. Nikki Reed is another one who I think, again, was a name at the time. Cam Gigandet? I don't know. I think he was a big deal at times. I don't know if he still is. Jackson Rathbone. These are all names that, you might have heard once or twice back in the day and be like, oh yeah, that guy. Then, strangely, in the middle of all this, we have Anna Kendrick. Hi, Anna. What are you doing here? Yeah, obviously she would go on to much better things. And I would imagine if she stays in this film series, really show that she doesn't want to be there anymore because she's way better in these films. Although I do think the cast of these films get a lot better as well. So yeah, that's our very strange and diverse cast. Interesting note, apparently Stephanie Meyer wanted Henry Cavill in the role of Edward Cullen, but by the time they got around to make the film, he was too old. What a weird role. What a weird, timeline it would have been where that happened, But anyway, look, hey, a potential Edward Cullen became Superman. The actual Edward Cullen became Batman. So I guess that's good, isn't it? Or isn't it? I don't know. It's not anything, actually. It's not good or bad. Let's talk about the vampires, okay? Because they're the very big focus here. And like I say about the werewolves, it's kind of hard to know, right? I have to say, I don't know if anyone went into this not knowing Edward was a vampire. Because they don't reveal it straight away in the film. I don't know if anyone was aware that Jacob became a werewolf, because it's not really in this film. They allude to it a few times, so that's kind of it. I think that's the big thing in the next one. I mean, the next one is called New Moon. So I'm guessing it's like, hey, moon, werewolves, oh! I don't know. They're all kind of based on times. Is it like New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn? So I don't know. They got really into the lunar cycle, I guess. So let's talk about Twilight vampires. Now, this is an answer from IMDb. I can tell it's been written by a real hardcore fan, so this is going to be really oh, they're original! They're very great. They're the best creation, the best vampires ever. Anyway, the question was, are Twilight's vampires traditional vampires? No, I'll have you know. The vampires of the Twilight universe are very different from traditional ones, you've seen in many other books and movies. Twilight vampires drink blood and are immortal, like any other vampire. But they don't have fangs. Why? Why don't they have fangs? I genuinely can't think of another vampire in pop culture that doesn't have fangs unless they played it as a joke. That really feels like they're how do we make these vampires different? Don't give them fangs? Perfect. It's just a little bit obvious, isn't it? Anyway, the Cullens, who are a family of vampires, and there's another coven as well. They do not drink human blood. They drink animal blood. So I guess they're basically like, vegetarians. I guess is how that works. But their teeth are sharp enough to cut through the skin and drain the blood from their prey, and all their teeth are full of venom that transforms humans into vampires, so they don't need fangs at all. I mean, yeah, but you could have just given them fangs. Would have made their job a lot easier, I would imagine. So yeah, that is something that we should point out. They have venom in their teeth that turns people into vampires. It's not just like, oh, you got bitten, you're a vampire. They have venom. I don't know if that venom ever comes used for anything else aside from turning people into vampires. It feels like kind of pretty useless otherwise. But I don't know. I guess that's... I was going to say, like, if you're a vampire and that's basically how you give new life, that's like... The venom is the equivalent to... Like, the human equivalent of sperm, I guess. So they have sperm in their mouths. Okay. That was look, sometimes you shouldn't follow me down the rabbit hole, okay? Is all I'm saying. Oh, man. Twilight vampires are not allergic to garlic or silver. Their reflections can be seen in mirrors, and they show up in pictures. They don't sleep. Their bodies are pale, cold, and hard. They don't age or change at all. That means women vampires can't have babies. So they're vampires. Really? They also say that these unique vampires are unbelievably strong and fast. They have great senses and abilities. Some of them have special gifts. For example, Edward can read minds. Alice, who is another Cullen, can see the future. They're very graceful and attractive to humans. That feels a bit like a personal preference, but okay. Emmett... the next part, out of nowhere, and maybe it's just because I knew Alice and I knew Edward, it just says Emmett was a weightlifter. Who the fuck is Emmett? Emmett was a weightlifter. Good on him. Apparently he was a weightlifter in previous life, so he's still strong. So, if you're going to be turned into a vampire, you better get turned into a vampire at your best state, I suppose. They are the world's most dangerous predators. They can get killed. They can't, get killed with a stake through the heart or by exposure to the sun. They can actually go out in the sun. But in the sun, their skin shines like it is made of crystals, and therefore they don't go into direct sunlight, as it would make them look and mark them as different. Yeah, they're very lucky they moved to this place in Washington where it's constantly grey or raining, is all I'd say. The only way you can kill a Twilight vampire is tear them into pieces and burn them. I suppose that would do it, yeah. And then they make the very clear point that there are many other details that make Twilight vampires non-traditional, but these are the most important. I'd be interesting to know what the least important ones, to be honest. I'd love to know, like, minor ones, like, oh, yeah, they can only have one glass of orange juice at breakfast. Oh! The minor weird stuff like that. So, look, let's get into the film itself, right? Our story is that Bella has left Phoenix, where her mom lives. She's moved to Forks, Washington, to meet her father, who's the chief of police, Charlie. That's kind of the start of our story. Now, Bella has been in Forks before when she was like 4, and then she left. So it's kind of weird. We have like all these people coming up to her being like, oh, do you remember? Do you remember me? Oh, and it's like, no, she was 4 years old, dude. What do you think? One of the first people we meet and does this is Jacob and his father. I can't remember his father's name. But they're like, oh, it's Jacob. You used to make mud pies together. So, they're clearly meant to be. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of times in the film where like people are just like, oh, I know this little lady, and you're like, you last saw her when you were 4, and they'd be like, oh, I made you your favorite, and she's like, what do you mean my fucking favorite? I was 4 years old. What are you talking about? Of course I don't remember you, dumb shit. Bella doesn't say that because she's an emotionless husk of a woman. Yeah, we have a Taylor Lautner as Jacob, of course. They're a Native American tribe. We will get into that in a minute. Taylor Lautner, as I said, has the big mop of hair. You wouldn't recognise him here. And, you probably wouldn't recognise him if you saw him now. Because, again, I'm pretty sure he did literally fall off the face of the earth. That's why we haven't heard or seen him since. I want to point out one thing Bella says. Not because I think it's important, but just because I want to hold her to this. She says...
I'm really kind of the more suffer in silence type.
I'm going to fucking hold you to that. If we get any bitching about Edward or Jacob or who you're going to choose, stick to your fucking word, Missy. Okay? I don't want any of you going back on that. Yeah, we go to high school. We have lots of people there. There's Anna Kendrick. She's there. Everyone loves Bella. The men, the boys especially, they're like falling over themselves, being total dicks. Just really being awkward and weird and uncomfortable. Trying to hit on her. She also makes awkward jokes, which someone laughs at. Anna Kendrick laughs at as well, so maybe she's got the hots for her, I don't know.
Are people from Arizona supposed to be, like, really tan?
Yeah. Maybe that's why they kicked me out.
You're good.
That's so funny.
It's a terrible joke, though. So I guess they're all just really like her straight away for no reason, even though she has zero personality. But sure, that's how the world works. Is she... Ugh, I don't know. The thing is about this is I can't tell sometimes is like Kristen Stewart being awkward and comfortable because that's her performance, or is that just the character? Is that how it's written? Is that how the character is meant to be? I don't know. And it baffles me the whole time. So yeah, she's getting a lot of attention, but someone who is also getting a lot of attention is not just Edward Cullen, but the whole Cullen family as they enter the high school. And the whole Cullen, all the Cullens enter, and then Edward kind of walks after them, and we get immediately the high school drama for these Cullens, who are the stepchildren adopted by a family of doctors, I guess. They straight away have like high school drama here. They all fall in love with Edward straight away, and Jessica's like, oh, no one is good for him, but like, you know, whatever, that kind of high schooly shit, you know. I can't believe it actually drew me in. That's the worst part. I'm shitting on it, but I was also like, oh my god, that dick. You're not good enough for her. Yeah, that's kind of where we meet Edward, and then we have their kind of first meeting scene. It's not exactly, I wouldn't call it a meet cute. It's very awkward and weird. At first I was like, because Edward is looking at her. And I thought first they made her literally stand in front of a fan, so she had that waving hair and it was luscious and she was beautiful and Edward was going to fall for her. But then later on it's like, I think like her scent was being wafted towards him by the fan, and it was driving him crazy. I don't know if that's because he's a vampire or just because, you know, she smells, maybe, I don't know. Who's to say? Well, you don't know. So that's what's going on there. They sit next to each other during this lesson. He just storms out. And he tries changing classes, and they're like, no, you can't. And then he storms out again. So, it's kind of weird, right? Like, this is something I don't understand. Let's say you're 4 teenager-aged vampires, which the Cullens are, right? Why would you go to high school? Like, did they, like, what is their life like? You know, like, I know we're meeting at this specific point, but, like, did they just go to high school in a town, then they're done, they can't keep going to high school, so they go on to the next town and go to high school there? Like, if you were a vampire, why would you go to high school at all? You do anything. I don't know, it's just something I didn't fully grasp. But I guess that's the world of Twilight. That's what vampires do, I suppose. Or at least that's what the Cullens do. So, thankfully it is a town that they can survive in anyway, because it's all grey and rainy, but, you know, why are you going to high school? Vampires. Anyway, Bella has been in town since he was 4. Like I said, everyone's going up to her. And, you know, the next day, Edward doesn't go up to her because he's not in school. The rest of the Cullens are there, but Edward's not there. And the same thing the next day. Where is Edward? Is he playing hard to get, that mysterious chancer? No, he's up to something potentially, because someone's been attacked by a wild animal. Oh my god, could it be Edward? Who knows? My immediate thought here was like, oh, maybe he was trying not to drink blood and then he couldn't help himself anymore, so he drank blood, and then he comes back to school and he's totally happy and a bit more normal. His eyes are, you know, showing some life. I'm like, oh, maybe he was just hangry this whole time. Maybe that's why he was a dick storming out everywhere. You're not yourself when you're hungry, or do you know? Also, I mean, I say there's life in his eyes. Robert Pattinson has a faraway look in his eye in every scene in this movie. It doesn't look like he's focusing on the actors. It doesn't look like he's focusing on the scene. It looks like someone who's just zoned out, like I'm doing right now in the video version. He's just like looking on, not really focusing, not really invested. Like, he looks like he just... It looks like he's regretting every decision he's ever made to be in this movie. But anyway, that's it. How could you not fall in love with that mysterious vampire Edward? There's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't, as we'll get to in a minute. So yeah, Bella is also an emotionless husk, as I mentioned. She just, I don't get it. I don't know, are they playing her as like aloof and too cool for school? Like, she never really emotes. There's one stage where she makes a really awkward face. I'm like, what are you trying to tell us here? Speaking of eye colour, by the way, And I don't know why they bothered with this. Kristen Stewart wore brown contact lenses. She naturally has green eyes, but she wore brown eye coloured contacts to make her more like Bella from the books. If there's one aspect of a character that I would totally not give a shit about them being faithful to, it's eye colour. Like, has eye colour ever really factored in to any character? Like, oh, you know that character by their blue eyes. Green eyes, brown eyes, who gives a shit? I don't know. It just seems like a really weird way to stay faithful. Because I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that like isn't faithful at all. So, eye colour, fine, I guess. I mean, I guess that's dedication. So, we get our first kind of heroic moment. And the first moment where we're like, there's something up with this Edward. He's not just a pale psychopath. He's got some sort of strength, because Bella is nearly crushed by some idiot driver. And Edward rushes over there and stops the car from crushing her, and they totally eye fuck each other for like 2 seconds. Like, it's at this point I was like, there's no, like, I feel like if I lived in Forks, Washington, if I was in this high school, I think I'd be like, lads, he's clearly a vampire. Like, that's clearly a vampire. Like, the whole Cullen family, clearly vampires, or albinos, I don't know. They're just, like, look at them. What are you doing here? But anyway, Bella is fine, thank God. Or I don't know, maybe they could have crushed her and this could have been the end of the whole thing. I don't know, maybe that would have been better off. They go to a recycling facility for some reason, because they were like, we need something visually exciting for cinema. They're going on a school trip recycling. Oh man, this is like the most boring place ever. Bella's being asked to prom by a lot of people. I'm assuming it's going to be Edward that takes her. I'm sure it will be. But they have the most awkward chemistry. Kristen Stewart and Rob Pattinson, like they look like they look like they're physically repulsed by each other. Like they don't want to be next to each other. Like they don't know how to interact with each other. I'm pretty sure they were a couple in real life as well at some point. So I don't know if that's as much for that relationship. But I don't know, is it just in this film or is it because it's early on? They're just really uncomfortable around each other, and it doesn't really work for me. It was at this point that I wrote in my notes. This is 2 hours long, and I have no idea how it's 2 hours long. And we're like a half hour into it at this point. We get a trailer line. Like, the dialogue in this movie is not good at all. There's another line I'm going to point out in a minute. There's this line that's so on the nose and is clearly recorded for a trailer, where Robert Pattinson says,
"What if I'm not the hero? What if I'm the bad guy?"
Oh, ladies, we got ourselves a bad boy. Woo! Taking this, making his way to the stage, the bad guy, Robert Pattinson. Oh man. So we get what could be a hilarious comedic scene in any other movie, where she wants to take the vampire to the beach. Hilarity ensues. Vampire beach party. The best movie they never made in the 80s. Maybe it is a real movie. Look it up on IMDb. Yeah, of course he doesn't show, because, you know, it's a beach. It's not because it's sunny. But she does meet Jacob, who says to her that, like, oh, the Cullens don't go here. And not in like a Mean Girls, like, he doesn't even go here. They say, like, oh, they don't go here. And he explains why. He says his tribe are supposedly derived from wolves, while the Cullens are apparently a warring clan, but they were spared when they revealed that they really were vampires. Dun, dun, dun. Like, again, I don't know if anyone didn't know this watching this, but here it is. He's a vampire. And I guess Jacob is a wolf, but I don't know if we're meant to know that yet. They just hinted it. Save it for the sequel. Oh, man. I don't know, is that like sequel bait, where they're like, we need to leave something on the table for a sequel. Just let them know that if there's another one, he's going to be a wolf. But anyway, yeah, that's a bit of turf war. I guess it's because maybe that's wolf turf, I'm not sure. So we see another guy get eaten. Well, we don't see it get eaten because that would be too awesome for this movie. But we do get something that is awesome, and a moment I feel like we should celebrate, commemorate, and maybe drop a bit of confetti in the video there. The first shirtless guy in Twilight. Woo! He's here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. Bella is confronted by a load of guys who harass her later on. And I said when I was talking about Punisher, like, there's one thing I will always mark out for, and it's a car skidding around the corner. And I was immediately disproven, because the car skids around the corner here. It's so lame. Edward is there to save Bella. Yay! So I was like so confused by this. I was like, is this like supernatural, or is he just stalking her? And it kind of feels like it's both, because we learn later on when after this they go to like a cafe or coffee shop, or no, it's a restaurant. You know, I think it's just I was thinking it was a coffee shop because the music here is so generic that I was like, must be a coffee shop, because it sounds like music that you would listen to and have available for purchase in a coffee shop, in a Starbucks. But it's really weird. He's like, oh, I could read minds except for yours. So that made me go, okay. So he couldn't read her mind, but he read their minds because he said that what they had planned for her was pretty bad. And I'm like, how does that mind reading work? Do you have to be very close? Like, were you just hanging around after her anyway? Because that's pretty weird, dude. That actually is stalking. Can I talk about how weird the real Robert Pattinson is for a sec? I don't want to say he's weird because that would be kind of harsh. But to get into character, apparently, for a few weeks leading up to this, he was like, I'm not going to talk to anyone. I just feel like that's him being big time. I feel like that's something we would all do. Like, oh, I'm getting into character, don't talk to me, just leave me alone. If you could just not be bothered on set, you totally would do that, wouldn't you? Give me a couple of weeks of silence of not being annoyed. I'll do that, no problem. And I also want to talk about, I just talked about the music and the soundtrack. Robert Pattinson is on the soundtrack to this movie. He's got one, maybe two. The only one I know is like Let Me Sign, I think it's called. And I've heard two differing stories about this one. And I think they're both bollocks for different reasons. So, apparently, Robert Pattinson didn't know this was going to be in the movie, this song, until he heard it at a screening. He didn't know it was going to be there. He was secretly recorded. Now, I heard another story where Nikki Reed saw Robert Pattinson, or heard Robert Pattinson just, chilling out, playing his guitar between takes, and recorded him on the laptop, and that's how the song got in the movie. And afterwards, Robert Pattinson heard it and was like, I'm surprised how well it went with the movie. Now, there's a few different scenarios here, okay? Number one, Robert Pattinson is like a real hipster dick. He's like the guy who always takes out his guitar at the party. He's like, oh, what do you want to hear? But he's also double the douchiness there, because he's like, oh, I'm just going to take a break from filming. I'm just going to sing my original song. Excuse me while I play my original music on set. Maybe he was trying to crack on to Nikki Reed. I don't know. Nikki Reed, anyway, not cool just recording him, you fucking weirdo. And also, look, I'm not going to say Robert Pattinson made an original song for Twilight and just played it on set, hoping that someone will be like, yeah, let's put that in the movie. But it kind of feels like that, because the lyrics of it kind of go like that. I mean, there is a sort of generic quality to the lyrics in general. But like, her hands were all twisted, but she was pointing at me. I was damned by the light coming out of her eyes. She said, walk on over into bitter shade. I will wrap you in my arms and you'll know you've been saved. Now again, maybe if it was swapped it would be more appropriate, but definitely feels like it has a sort of a Twilight vampire quality to it, doesn't it? I don't know. I'm saying conspiracy theory. I think he was like, here's my chance to be taken seriously as a musician. I'm just going to play my original music really obnoxiously on set and maybe they'll put it in the movie. I don't know. But anyway, that's what happens. And his song is in the movie. And look, I joke around. It's actually not a bad song. Let Me Sign if you want to check it out. Oh my god, if you do want to check it out and you want to see what it was like living through the Twilight fiasco, watch this on YouTube. The version I saw was uploaded early 2009. It was like iMovie quality YouTube video. Just a fucking slideshow of like Robert Pattinson posing and sexy Robert Pattinson photos. Oh man, that sums up the late 2000s for me. That was it. That was a time machine. That is what it's like to be back in that time. If you want to check it out. Oh my god, it's amazing. But yeah, that's what's going on. Robert Pattinson's like, hey, I can read minds, but not yours. Okay. Through a bit of research, Bella finds out that he is actually a vampire. Again, I don't know if people didn't know this going into it. It kind of feels like if you didn't know that, you'd probably be very bored by now. But also, I want to point out that like Bella is like, he's a vampire, and you might be like, wait, how does she actually just jump to the fact that he is a vampire? It's pretty weird, right? First of all, like the first immediate thing is like, you can read minds. I wouldn't think of vampire. I'm like, you're a mind reader? What? And all it's just very strange as well. Like he's like reading minds at a restaurant, but he can't read hers. It kind of feels like it could be a big coincidence. But anyway, he does this is her evidence for him being a vampire, right? She's like, he's strong. I mean, he put a dent in a car. He's fast. Yeah, he seems pretty fast. His hands were cold that one time you touched his hand. I'm like, look, watching the film, when you know something's up, you're like, yeah, I could say he's a vampire, because I'm watching a work of fiction. But in the real world, if, like, I was like, that guy's strong and fast. Hey, he's a bit cold. Vampire? Come on, man. That seems like a bit of a jump. But anyway, I don't know. But like it's weird, like, because if you did go into that and if you really analyze this film to that degree, okay, you'd basically see that this is a film about an elderly man who skulks and hangs around with high school girls. That's what's going on here. I mean, if you want a poor description of the movie, that's what it is. So there's a bit of a confrontation here, which, I mean, I don't know, is it interesting? It's where she's like, you're a vampire. You're like, first of all, you're going to go with a vampire that you're not entirely sure is safe, could be dangerous, and she storms off into the woods. There's a lot of storming off in this movie. She goes into the woods by herself with a vampire. Oh, that's a great idea. What if he's like, oh, I don't want anyone knowing I'm a vampire. Chomp. It's just not a great plan. And then she like jumps on his back and they awkwardly sprint away. The effects of the running in this look awful. Maybe it's low budget. I hope it gets better. It just looks really weird. It looks like it's like, oh, I don't know, is it like sped up? It's just very strange looking. But anyway, he's on her back. They're running. She shows what he looks like in sunlight. His skin shines like diamonds, and he acts like it's disgusting. He's like, it's the skin of a killer. Even though the colour's only hurt and feeding animals, but sure. Apparently what's interesting, and I didn't know this, the sparkling skin didn't even go down well with fans of the book. It says here, right on IMDb, why does Edward sparkle in the sunlight instead of burning to a crisp? I mean, we don't really need to go into that, but basically it turns out the 70 Meyer had a dream where that happened. So, that's a good idea. Because, the best ideas come from dreams. Sparkling vampires? Sure. But the fans weren't happy because it describes vampire skin as beautiful diamonds. Fans complained that the movie seems like they just threw glitter on his body and shined a light on it. Or like the vampire was sweating excessively. There have also been complaints about the noise that comes off when their skin shines, which is not mentioned in the book. Fans don't believe that was the best way to go about showing us what the Cullen's skin does in light. Now, the sound effect is ridiculous. I agree with that. Why it's like ding, ding, or whatever, that's just very strange. But it would look even more ludicrous if he just literally looked like a diamond mine. Like if he looked like fucking Emma Frost out of the X-Men, Oh, but anyway. It's hilarious. Like, he's like, oh, then he has a very romantic line. He's like, you're like my own personal brand of heroin. Oh, fucking Sid and Nancy, get a room. So, yeah, he wants to drink her blood, I guess. Which is a weird way of talking about heroin. Like, he's basically like, I can't resist you. They have like, I mean, this is a scene where like we could really show their love here, their chemistry. They have the chemistry of like a bowl of water and a newspaper. So we learned that Edward's been a vampire since 1918. He was dying from Spanish influenza, and the doctor, which is Carlisle Cullen, his surrogate father, I guess, bites him to save him and basically turn him into a vampire. So he's 17 forever, even though he's 108 or something. So he wants to bite her, but he has to. Or sorry, when you bite a vampire or someone to turn into a vampire, it's very hard to resist the urge to drain them completely. And they have venom that turns everyone into vampires, like I said. One thing I did ask about this, and it's very minor, right? Because Jacob shows up again, and his dad is in a wheelchair, right? And I'm like, I assume he's a vampire as well. So I'm like, what happens when he becomes a wolf? Is he like a crippled wolf? Is he like a wolf in like a wheelchair? Or with no hind legs working? Is he normal when he's a wolf? In that case, wouldn't you be a wolf as long as you could? I don't know. I'm not saying that just because you're disabled, you'd be better off being a wolf. That comes off really wrong. That's not what I meant, obviously. Well, look, if that offended you, I apologise. But at least I'm suffering because I realised, and I made a note here, there's an hour left in this movie. I'm only halfway through this film. So now that Bella and Edward are not an item, but they're kind of getting on, The vampires are inviting over, and the vampires are in the kitchen cooking Italian food. Oh, mamma mia. None of them eat, by the way. I don't think they know how to cook. They have a kitchen, and they're watching like videos to learn how to cook. And they're worried that the relationship between Bella and Edward could expose them. I mean, like, it feels like the way they're acting here, it's like this has never happened before. But I assume it has, so why are you worrying? Like what? And also, I don't buy that, like, Bella is the one to bring Edward, like, you know, into a relationship out of nowhere, but sure. So, Edward doesn't sleep and listens to classical music, so, you know, he's... basically, he's Alex from A Clockwork Orange, I suppose. Bella says she can't dance. I thought that was going to pay off at the prom. I honestly don't remember if it does. But anyway, more terrible dialogue. I think this was something that everyone tore apart. Because they jump out his bedroom window and they start climbing. And I think actually there's been apologies for this line by the writer. When she jumps on his back and he goes,
You better hold on tight, spider monkey.
What? What the hell is that as a pet name? Spider monkey? Is it because he's like a spider? Because he's climbing? And she's like a monkey because she's clung on? I don't know. I'm giving this too much. I'm giving this more thought than the writer ever did. But yeah, as I said, the powers just don't look very good. His awkward jump flying looks really bad. It looks all sped up. And it looks like really basic. Like they could have done better. But they weren't ours. I mean, they shot the thing in like 40-something days. I also should say, I'm not going to say the script was rushed. But they had to get the script finished before the impending writer's strike. So it kind of was rushed, maybe? I don't know. So Edward, also, in case you were like, he's not creepy, he's a romantic. He likes to watch Bella sleep. That's just kind of weird. He's like, I just watch you sometimes sleep. Big red flag, girl, run. So at one point it looks like they're going to get busy, but he resists her. I don't know why. I don't know why they. Yeah, they just. There was no real reason. They just didn't. It looked like it was going to be something romantic, and then they just don't. I don't understand what happened there, but anyway. The big question I had was, how long have the Cullens been here? No one notices that they've been the same age forever. Again, I don't know how this works. Did they have to change town every like 5-6 years? It's just very odd. I don't understand it. But sure. We get a scene that I saw described on IMDb as the famous baseball scene. Where they're basically like, if we want to use our powers and play baseball, we have to do it in a storm, because that way no one will be able to watch us. So they play baseball in a storm using their powers. And, oh man, if this hasn't dated itself. It's set to Supermassive Black Hole by Muse. And it's a scene. It's the famous baseball scene. It's fine. It's like exactly what it's... Okay, it sounds like a baseball scene where they use their powers. That's what happens. That's everything you just picture in your head. That's what it is. That's what it is. But then the bad vampires show up. Dun, dun, dun. That's right. The thing that's been eating people have been the bad vampires, and they just drink blood and kill people. They show up in slow motion out of the fog. Mwah. Film School 101. And the bad guys come out in slow motion from the fog. It's like that shot out of Mystery Men, for fuck's sake. They want to eat Bella, I think, or something. I don't know. There's only a half hour left at this point. And there's like no story. So I guess they need an ending. So they're like, have the bad vampires show up. Now we need a fight. We need bad guys. We need a villain, goddammit. And this is exactly where it goes. One of the vampires is obsessed with Bella and wants to hunt her down. So he's like a hunter vampire. And the Cullens try to protect her. But eventually, the hunter vampire finds Bella's mom back in Phoenix? Phoenix. There we go with Phoenix. Oregon is where the film was filmed, I think. Film was filmed. So the vampire takes Bella's mom hostage and tells her to come alone. I have to say as well, 37 million. When I saw the budget was 37 million for this, I dropped dead and came back as a vampire. I cannot believe the budget of this is 37 million. It looks really cheap. It looks really like a Lifetime movie at times. I'm shocked. It's never good when I can look at a film and I'm like, I think I could have made this. And that's how I felt watching this. So she saves her mom, and the tracker vampire, hunter vampire, attacks her and films it with the intention to show Edward. I don't know. But Edward shows up for some unexplained reason and they fight. Bella is bitten and she's bleeding badly and in danger of being turned into a vampire. There's kind of a debate of whether or not he should turn into a vampire, I think. Edward makes a choice to... The tracker vampire bit her and put venom into her, I think, to turn her into a vampire. I think that was what happened. So Edward makes a choice to suck out the venom to stop her turning into a vampire. And then the most awesome thing in the movie is happening in the background, out of focus, where the other Cullens kill the other vampire. They're like beating the shit out of him, chopping him into pieces and lighting him on fire. And we don't even get to see that properly. God damn it. They play a weirdly romantic song as well as Edgar drinks the shit out of her blood and keeps going even after the venom is gone. And you're like, oh, is he going to stop? I assume so. It'd be a bit of a downer ending if he just sucked her dry and she died. That'd be amazing. But no, it's not to be. And then we get a quote that I'm sure a million emo goth girls have tattooed and I regret now. Death is easy, life is harder. Okay. Bella chooses to stay in Forks at the end of the movie. She survived. She wakes up in a hospital bed. And at this point, it's prom time, baby. Because, of course, we have to end with a bit of a prom and a dance. Edward and Jacob have a big stare down because Jacob shows up. He skulks out of the wood and talks to Bella, saying his dad said she should break up with her boyfriend. Ooh! Because why wouldn't you listen to your sort of friend's dad? He also got paid $20 to talk to Bella, so hey, that's he's already up in this relationship as far as I'm concerned. Edward and Jacob have a bit of a stare down, and he says the most on the nose line and tease I've maybe ever heard. So he says this because it's the sort of thing you'd never hear in real life. He goes up to Bella and Edward, walks Bella away, and look, referring to Jacob, he says,
I leave you alone for 2 minutes, and the wolves descend.
Subtle, what could it possibly mean? Ugh. Alice has visions. This is something I didn't even notice until then. I honestly can't even remember what her vision was. But I'm sure it might come important later. Bella asks Edward to make her vampire so they can have together forever, but he says it's not meant to be despite her visions. I think that was the vision. The vision was that she was going to become a vampire or something. And they're dancing away, so I guess Bella can dance. That was something that was a callback, maybe. I don't know. And while this is all happening, Tracker Vampire's wife watches them dance and walks away eerily. Dun dun dun. Oh. And then we end our film. But there will be a new moon. That's terrible. That's almost as bad as I leave you alone for 2 seconds and the wolves descend. But yeah, that is Twilight. And it's it's a movie, isn't it? Of all the movies I watched, that's one of them. I mean, it's sort of a movie. I don't want to give it that credit. It's fine. It feels like a TV movie to me at times. I didn't care for them or their romance, if I'm totally honest. It was watchable, but I was relatively bored throughout the whole thing. It just feels like a movie on autopilot. Like, it feels like they're like, oh yeah, God, we need to make a villain for this, don't we? The evil vampire, fine, throw him in there. Because I genuinely barely a plot until they decide they need something exciting for the ending. Like, that's really what it feels like. I genuinely have no idea how this movie is 2 hours long or why this movie is 2 hours long. It has no business being this long. But I'm sure the other ones are going to be as long, if not longer. Ugh. Look, I will say this. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be, which is a vampire romance for teenage girls. And when you look at that, is it any surprise it didn't really appeal to me? Because I'm not a teenager or a girl. And to me, these aren't really vampires in some way. Is that is it controversial? Oh, I don't know. But they're not traditional vampires as IMDb taught us. The worst thing about it, though, is like, this is a film that you either want it to be really bad so you can rip into it, or really good so you can be surprised. It was fine. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very bad. It was just kind of boringly bad, if I can put it that way. But hopefully, we will get another bite at the apple. Hopefully, the next one is going to be better, because we might have a new hope in a new moon. That was slightly better in the last read. But yes, next week I am looking at Twilight New Moon, the second film, which was when Twilight really exploded, in my opinion, popularity-wise, or at least that's what it seemed like at the time. If you enjoyed this, or at least enjoyed watching me suffer, please give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss the rest of our Twilight videos and all the other stuff we have coming up for Halloween. But aside from that, I've been your cult leader, Tom Pot. Please come back next week when we review Twilight New Moon, because remember, I'll be watching. Just like Edward watched Bella when she slept. Take care.